I am Jamie Cope with the WVU Industrial Extension, and glad to have everybody with us. We're here for the Protecting Employees from Heat-Related Illness webinar with Greg Green. So excited to have everybody. Just a few things before we get started. We have a training for OSHA 10-hour construction going on at NRGRDA down in the Beckley area. And that's an open enrollment. So that's coming up on May the 24th. If you'd like more information on that and some of the other things that are coming up on our calendar, never hesitate to go to the events page on the website. So check that out. And that's wvmep.com. And then check out our events. And we're going to have a lot of good information coming from Greg today. If you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to put those in the chat. And we'll try to get to them as they come up, or we'll definitely have a time for question and answer at the end. And this is being recorded, so you'll get a recording of it when we're done as well. So with all that, I think that's everything we need to get started. So Greg, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
All right. You hear me all right, James?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right, great. All right, guys. Hey, thank you guys for taking time out of your day to come spend it with us, the West Virginia MEP. We're going to, as Jamie said earlier, we're going to talk about how we protect employees from heat-related illnesses. It'll be about a 30-minute webinar, hopefully. Heat-related illnesses is it's on the radar for OSHA, and we need to be, as employers, we need to make sure that we are aware of what's going on out in the industry. Before we get started, I want to address a few housekeeping items. At the end of the presentation, there'll be a Q&A session. If you would like to submit a question, please use the chat box as we go. Finally, make sure your devices are muted. Thank you. Again, my name is Greg Green, and I'm a safety and health specialist with WVU Industrial Extension. I have a master's degree in safety and environmental management from WVU and over 18 years of field experience, with 12 years being a federal coal mine inspector with the Mine Safety and Health Administration. I previously worked with Kiewit Corporation and traveled around the country as a safety manager on various projects. The WVU Industrial Extension is a part of a national network of manufacturing extension partnerships, with each state having at least one center. As a smaller state, West Virginia has just one center, which is located in the Statler College of Engineering at WVU in Morgantown. Our team partners with small and medium-sized manufacturers in West Virginia to support operational improvement and business growth. As part of West Virginia University, the group serves the university's land grant mission by functioning as a state industrial extension. As West Virginia's affiliate to the NIST MEP National Network, we are part of a nationwide program of centers tasked with supporting the manufacturing community. This unique arrangement provides us the opportunity to support the manufacturing community from a national, state, and local level. The group focuses on developing consulting services that reflect client needs, provide hands-on education, and work one-on-one with our clients to deliver practical solutions in the area of workforce, occupational health and safety, management systems, operational improvement, advanced manufacturing, leadership development, and innovation and growth services. The objective for this webinar is to help you identify heat-related conditions, heat-related illnesses, and ways to protect your employees from the heat. Although OSHA does not have any specific standards related to heat hazards, they can always rely on the general duty clause that states, each employer shall furnish to each of his employees a place of employment which are free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm to his employees. Some of you are sitting there thinking, can this really happen? Or is heat-related illnesses that dangerous? Here are a few examples of how serious heat-related illnesses can be. John Watchwillick missed 5 weeks after a knee surgery. When he returned in July, the heat was already so bad the other 2 postal workers in his area had been hospitalized a week earlier, one with renal failure. The temperature hit 104 degrees on Watchwillick's first day back. He called his boss and asked if he could take a sick day. He was allegedly told to hydrate and finish the job. He returned to work the following day when the high hit 102. When Watchwillick called for an extra hand, his supervisor told him help would arrive later. At 2:50 p.m., he collapsed, Hospital staff recorded his core temperature at 108.7 degrees before he died. James Baldessar collapsed on the day the heat index hit 100 degrees. His core temperature had climbed to 110. OSHA files show higher ups in Baldessar's area discussed heat dangers, but supervisors failed to convey the safety procedures to carriers. Supervisors received several heat advisories in the weeks before Baldessari's death. Carriers who were interviewed by OSHA said they were unaware of them. OSHA was involved in both of these cases and cited the general duty clause. One that hits closer to home is when first responders were called to John Marshall's High School football field in Glendale, West Virginia, after 37 band members became overwhelmed by heat. Several students started complaining of dizziness, of nausea, with a few even throwing up. In all, 37 students were treated at 3 different area hospitals for heat exhaustion. The major issue was a mixture of the heat and the brand new field turf, which gets much hotter than the grass on which the bands usually practice. 16 area ambulances from West Virginia and Ohio had to be dispatched to help with triage. Thankfully, only 1 student was kept overnight for observation and was later released. In the previous decade, 8,081 heat-related deaths were reported in the United States. In 72% of those deaths, the underlying cause was exposure to excessive heat, and heat was a contributing factor in the remaining 28%. Heat-related deaths were reported most frequently among males at 69%. Almost all heat-related deaths occurred during May through September, which the highest numbers reported during July and August. In recent years, excessive heat has caused more deaths than all other weather events, including floods. A heat wave is a prolonged period of excessive heat, generally 10 degrees or more above average, often combined with excessive humidity. You will likely hear weather forecasts use the following terms when a heat wave is predicted in your community. Excessive heat watch is when the conditions are favorable for an excessive heat event to meet or exceed local excessive heat warning criteria in the next 24 to 72 hours. Heat advisory is when the heat index values are forecasting to meet locally defined advisory criteria for 1 to 2 days, which means daytime highs of 100 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Excessive heat warning is when the heat index values are forecasting to meet or exceed locally defined warning criteria for at least 2 days, with daytime time being between 105 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Some general precautions to think about while we are getting started are to listen to local weather forecasts and stay aware of upcoming temperature changes. Be aware of both the temperature and the heat index. The heat index is the temperature of the body feels when the effects of heat and humidity are combined. Know those in your neighborhood who are elderly, young, sick, or overweight. They are more likely to become victims of excessive heat and may need help. Stay hydrated by drinking plenty of fluids, even if you don't feel thirsty. Avoid drinks with caffeine or alcohol. Eat small meals and eat more often. Wear loose-fitting, lightweight, light-coloring clothing. Avoid dark colors because they absorb the sun's rays. Use a buddy system when working in excessive heat, and take frequent breaks if you must work outdoors. Because there's a potential to be exposed to heat in our workplace, we're going to talk about recognizing specific hazards related to heat stress. Although illness from exposure to heat is preventable, every year thousands become sick from occupational heat exposure, and some cases are fatal. Hazardous heat exposure can occur indoors or outdoors and can occur during any season if the conditions are right, not only during heat waves. During this presentation, we'll be discussing heat-related illnesses and methods to prevent or minimize the effects at the early stages of heat illness. Most outdoor fatalities, 50 to 75%, occur in the first few days of working in warm or hot environments because the body needs to build a tolerance to heat gradually over time. The process of building tolerance is called heat acclimatization. Lack of acclimatization represents a major risk factor for fatal outcomes. We need to acclimate to hot environments. There is a greater potential for workers who have worked from home and then come back to a hot workplace without properly acclimating. Occupational risk factors for heat illness include heavy and physical activity, warm or hot environment, lack of acclimatization, and wearing clothing that holds in body heat. Heat-related illnesses occur when our bodies are overheated and our internal cooling system cannot cool us down fast enough or properly. When our bodies fail to cool us down in intense heat, the effects can be serious illness or even death. The internal cooling system is called homeostasis. During homeostasis, the body burns calories and produces heat to maintain a temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Two effective ways that the body rids itself of heat are: one, sweating, which is where the body cools itself by sweat evaporating from the skin, and two, convective body cooling. The circulatory system carries core heat toward the skin surface, and the body heat is carried away as the cooler outside air passes over the skin. There are warning signs of heat stress. Problems develop when the body's cooling mechanisms are not able to properly work, such as when the air temperature exceeds the body temperature and the body cannot easily cool itself, or when the air is humid and sweat does not evaporate quickly. Finally, remember that sweat doesn't evaporate easily from a person who works hard while wrapped in heavy clothing or protective gear. Heat-related illness is a concern in any weather, anywhere. Let's take a quick poll. What is the most dangerous type of heat-related illness?
Can you see that all right, Greg? Oh,
Yeah,
yep.
yep, it's up.
There we go.
We good, Jane?
Yeah, can you see the results?
Yeah, we got heat stroke. Yes, it is. Heat stroke is the most dangerous. Let's take a look at all of them. All right, the 4 heat-related conditions we're going to discuss are heat rash, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. These conditions are listed by severity, with heat stroke being the most dangerous. Heat rash is a skin irritation caused by excessive sweating during hot and humid weather. Symptoms include clusters of red bumps on the skin, which often appears on the neck, upper chest, and skin folds. Workers experiencing heat rash should seek a cooler, less humid work environment if possible. They should keep the rash area dry and apply powder to increase comfort. Keep in mind that cream should not be used to treat heat rash. Heat cramps are muscular pains and spasms that usually occur in the legs or abdomen. Heat cramps are often an early sign that the body is having trouble with the heat. Get the person to a cooler place and have him or her rest in a comfortable position. Lightly stretch the affected muscle and gently massage the area. Give an electrolyte containing fluids such as a commercial sports drink, fruit juice, or milk. Water may also be given. Heat exhaustion is more severe condition than heat cramps. Heat exhaustion often affects athletes, firefighters, construction workers, and factory workers. It also affects those wearing heavy clothing in a hot, humid environment. Signs of heat exhaustion include cool, moist, pale, ashen, or flushed skin, headache, nausea, dizziness, weakness, and exhaustion. If you suspect a person is suffering from heat exhaustion, move the person to a cooler environment with circulating air, remove or loosen as much clothing as possible, and apply a cool, wet cloths or towels to the skin. Fanning or spraying the person with water can also help. If the person is conscious, give small amounts of cool fluids such as commercial sports drink or fruit juice to restore fluids and electrolytes. Milk or water may also be given. Give about 4 ounces of fluid every 15 minutes. If the person's conditions does not improve, or if he or she refuses water, has a change in consciousness, or vomits, call 911 or your local emergency number. Heat stroke is a life-threatening condition that usually occurs by ignoring the signals of heat exhaustion. Heat stroke develops when the body systems are overwhelmed by heat and begin to stop functioning. Signs of heat stroke include extremely high body temperature, red skin, which may be dry or moist, changes in consciousness, rapid weak pulse, rapid shallow breathing, confusion, vomiting, and seizures. Heat stroke is life-threatening. Call 911 or your local emergency number immediately. If you can help, start to rapidly cool the body by immersing the person up to the neck in cold water, if possible, or douse or spray the person with cold water. Sponge the person with ice water, douse towels over the entire body, frequently rotating the cold, wet towels. If you can, cover the person with bags of ice. If you are not able to measure and monitor the person's temperature, apply rapid cooling methods for 20 minutes or until the person's condition improves. So let's examine the difference between the two most important heat conditions. The affected individual with heat exhaustion will feel faint or dizzy, while with heat stroke, the individual will have throbbing headaches. Heat exhaustion, the individual will have excessive sweating, while heat stroke will have no sweating. Heat exhaustion will have cool, clammy skin, and heat stroke will have red, hot, and dry skin. Both conditions will have nausea or vomiting. Heat exhaustion will have a rapid, weak pulse, while heat stroke will have a rapid, strong pulse. Heat exhaustion will produce muscle cramps, while heat stroke produces a loss of consciousness. Using the hierarchy of controls, we will look at all 5 of these to eliminate or reduce the effects of heat on workers. Some of these categories intertwine, but they help produce a plan to help your employees stay safe. Eliminating heat by avoiding it is the safest possible way. Installing air conditioning in your work area is another way to eliminate the heat to protect your employees. Substitution is the second control. Unfortunately, there is not much we can do for substituting for heat-related illnesses. The third control is engineering. Engineering controls can include increasing air velocity through ventilation controls, the use of reflective or heat-absorbing shield or barriers, reducing steam leaks, wet floors, or humidity, use an air conditioning system in the rest areas, or installing cooling fans, misting fans, or misting tents. The fourth would be administrative controls. Employers should ensure that workers are acclimatized before they work in a hot environment. Gradually increase workers' time in hot conditions over 7 to 14 days. For example, a new worker schedule should be no more than 20% of the usual duration of work in the heat on day 1, and no more than a 20% increase for each additional day. For workers with previous experience, the schedule should be no more than 50% of the usual duration of work in the heat on day 1, 60% on day 2, 80 on day 3, 100% on day 4. Closely supervise new employees for the first 14 days or until they are fully acclimatized. Some of the administrative controls can be schedule work earlier or later in the day, use work rest schedules, limit strenuous work, example for carrying heavy loads, use relief workers when needed. Employers should provide the means for appropriate hydration of workers. Water should be potable around 59 degrees Fahrenheit and made accessible near the work area. Estimate how much water will be needed and decide who will obtain and check on water supplies. Individual, not communal, drinking cups should be provided. Encourage workers to hydrate themselves. If in the heat, less than 2 hours, and involved in moderate work activities, drink 1 cup, 8 ounces of water every 15 to 20 minutes. During prolonged sweating lasting several hours, drink sport drinks contained balanced electrolytes. Avoid drinks with high caffeine or sugar. Generally, fluid intake should not exceed 6 cups per hour. Develop a heat program, which we will discuss later. The fifth and last control is PPE, or personal protective equipment. A list of these products on the market to help your employees combat the effects of heat on the body. Multiple styles of cooling vests, cooling hats, cooling towels, and wide brim hats can be purchased. Dark clothing absorbs the heat, so remember to try to eliminate bulky, heavy, and dark PPE. Remember that PPE is the last line of defense using the hierarchy of controls. So let's take another poll. What's the most effective defense against heat-related illness? We need some Jeopardy music, Jane.
Yeah, we do.
All right, you got it. Elimination. Yep, elimination is the right answer. However, using many levels in the hierarchy of control may be necessary. Combining administrative, engineering, and PPE controls are a good way to battle the heat if you can't eliminate it. This heat index app from OSHA is a great tool for anyone to use. This app is free and can be used at any location. By clicking on the risk level, it will give you recommendations to stay safe. As the risk levels increase, so do the precautions. This is an example for lower risk conditions. These tips can be used as a reminder to keep your employees protected. During lower risk conditions, most people can work safely. Drink water and sports drinks for electrolyte balance, provide shade and hats, and encourage their use. Again, this app is called Heat Index. So let's take our last poll question. All right, good. Looks about half and half, 50% have, 50% doesn't. So let's talk a little bit about a written heat stress program. Developing a heat stress program for your business is a great way to help your employees stay safe. First, identify conditions in your work environment that expose employees to heat. Plan for conditions and temperatures that will affect your workers. Use the Heat Index app or similar technology to help identify the higher risk days. Identify any hot areas in your work environment. Measure heat levels around machinery, enclosed areas, places where welding equipment, torches are being used, and where ventilation is stagnated. Protect your workers by using the hierarchy of controls as we discussed earlier. Train your workers on the importance of monitoring heat-related illnesses in the workplace, and most importantly, remember to acclimate your workers before exposing them to a hot environment. Thank you for participating, and I hope you picked up some useful information for yourself and your employees. Is there any questions?
Yeah, go ahead and put your questions in the chat now if you'd like to. And Greg, as I was watching this, I was thinking about it as well. And you know, I recognize a lot of the names on our list here, and I don't think there's anybody out there that's going to be like, go get back to work. I don't care if it's hot. You know, that's I don't think that's it. But how can managers emphasize to their employees that this is important, right? I think that's what needs to happen, because I think as many times as not, it's the employee not noticing the signs or not wanting to be a bother and working through the heat. So can you think of ways that that the managers can make sure that their staff knows that it's important to them?
Yeah, so some of our successful businesses that we go to, they'll have cooling tents, cooling misting tents. A lot of places will have popsicles, electrolyte replacement popsicles, water on site to show that the employees that this is important to them, and also in protecting their employees. I think a lot of visual aids would be the way to go. Having water on site, making sure that they know they can go to the air conditioned break room if they're feeling overwhelmed by the heat. Just having an outlet for your employees to get out of that heat temporarily and get some relief.
Sure. Oh, here we go. What is the temperature at a workplace, 12-hour a day work pace, to be concerned about heat stress? Thank you, Vitaly. So what's the temperature to be concerned about heat stress?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's going to be different at each location because we have to take into account the temperature and the humidity. Humidity is really critical. And as in the summer months, we get into higher temperatures. I would be concerned when temperatures get above the 90-degree mark just as a baseline in this area, because we don't normally see the temperatures that high in this area for the most part, but as the temperatures raise in the mid 80s to the lower 90s, that's when I would start really perking up my ears and making sure that we're monitoring our employees.
Okay, great. Do you have any other questions out there? Oh, so how do you determine hydration? Are there signs of that?
That's a great question because they say when you are thirsty, that is the first sign that you are already dehydrated. Um, and it is tough to monitor what the employee is drinking, especially before they come to work. What they were exposed to before they come on shift. If they're out, say, golfing or running a race during the day and they're on afternoon shift, how do you properly monitor their hydration? Again, just it's one of those things where just make sure that maybe signs, make sure things are visible that the employee can see that that hydration is important to them, and it's more of self-responsibility more than anything.
Yeah. We'll get to Vitali's question first here. Urine color, is that a factor?
Yes, urine color is a great indicator of hydration. The darker the urine, the less hydrated you are. The clearer the urine is, the more hydrated you are. So that is definitely a concern. So if a person is severely dehydrated, it would be a very, very dark yellow.
Okay. And we had Wayne Vanderhoof chimed in with the trigger temperature for OSHA's NEP is 80 degrees Fahrenheit heat index. So like you were saying, there's a combination of heat and humidity, right, that factors into that heat index that is what is probably a better indicator than just temperature.
Yes, exactly. The heat index is what you really want to look at.
Let's see, there's a chart out there with urine colorization that we use and post in the restrooms for employees to be aware of that. Oh, wow. Okay,
That's
thank you, Trey.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's your visual aid to educate the employee that hydration is important. So that's great.
Let's see, Shane Lloyd says, is zero sugar Gatorade problematic with the fake sugars? Would regular Gatorade be better or replacing electrolytes?
That's a great question. I wish I was a nutritionist.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. We
I would
can
have
look
to
into that maybe and try to get back to Shane and the follow-up.
yeah, if anybody knows a little bit more about, I'm a big proponent of just regular water, and you can do electrolyte supplements. They actually have pills that you can take. But as for Gatorade, difference in Gatorades, I don't know. I kind of stay away from those things.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, he was just saying that a lot of his staff had asked that. So and Susie was hoping that Tracy would share that chart with us. So yeah, if that's something that you can share, Tracy, please do, or direct us where we can get it. That's if it's not public domain, if we need to buy it or something, if you could just share that, that would be great. And oh, there we go. Gabriel shared that chart with us. Okay.
Perfect.
And they're preparing a standard for the construction industry for heat stress prevention. The number is ANSI A10.50. It should be released earlier this year. Well, good.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you for
knew
that.
OSHA was promulgating. They wanted to come up with a standard, so that must be getting close to being published.
Okay, great, great.
And now
Oh,
that may be for the construction industry, but a lot of us are in the general industry, so that's why we normally cite the general duty clause. But depending on, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, we need to protect our employees from, the heat-related illnesses.
sure, absolutely. All right. Well, that looks like all of our questions for now. And we really thank everyone for joining us. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, if you've got the opportunity to be in the Beckley area, Wednesday, May 24th, Greg will be teaching an OSHA 10-hour construction course. So definitely sign up for that. That's on our website, wvmep.com. And then check out the events page. And yeah, Greg, thanks for that. That was a great presentation. I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody got a lot out of it. Whenever you see questions like that coming at the end, you know that people are engaged. So thanks for that, and hope to see everybody again real soon. And don't forget that everybody on our team is very approachable. So if you have more follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Greg or John Fraser or any on the team. Would be happy to talk to you about what your challenges are. We're happy to help. So have a great time, everybody.
We are an open forum, so please give us a call.
All right. Thanks, everybody.